my legs just felt like they'd done 1,000 more reps. I got pins and needles, watts were down like 20 to 30. I guess initially we thought this was neural. There's not much else you can do. Snowing. It was all just too much. I'm sorry, but I just didn't have any more good vibes to give. Am I ever going to be a professional athlete? Am I ever going to get back there? And they gave us the diagnosis that we weren't expecting to hear. Hi YouTube, I just wanted to come on here and give you a little bit of an update. So this isn't a race schedule, it's not a day in the life, it's just a little video explaining what's been going on the last year and explaining why I've been a little bit off and performances has probably been below par. So I feel bad coming on here and giving you lots of down and sad information because I pride myself on being quite like a positive athlete, as you know, and as this represents. But this has I suppose in the race or at the time you don't think much of it. Going down my left side, so this be calf issues or cramping or just the odd session where it didn't feel quite right. So from Kona we went to Noosa. Noosa we raced in Canberra. And then it was Ironman Western Australia Busselton, where leading up to the race, now looking back, I was definitely nursing some issues, but at that time we were doing a lot more swimming and a little bit less biking and running. And then moving into last year, where we all can look back on the YouTube videos and the results to see it was just a bit, I don't know how to put it, just a bit off. So I like a few races really spring to mind that feel extremely different in comparison to previous years. So Challenge Championships, Oceanside, Hamburg, Texas, where I would be aiming to hit numbers that I've hit quite comfortably in previous years. But the effort just seemed exacerbated and so much more. And I know you can have off days, but this wasn't like that. My legs just felt like they'd done 1,000 more reps and just, I got pins and needles and almost like a cramping sensation. And that would then lead on to the run where I just couldn't perform to almost how I'd been training or how I know I could do. And looking back at the data from those races, watts were down like 20 to 30, 20 to 30 watts compared to previous years, and that's not without the effort to try and hit those numbers, which I believed I could. It's almost, again, like I said, that the legs like even just 5 or 10 minutes into the run, I feel like the legs have already done a marathon. They kind of like cramp up. They fill with, well, I guess initially we thought this was neural and that the sensations would move around. So sometimes it would start in my lower down in my calves, and it would just feel like cramping and like just like stiff. Sometimes it would start like higher up in the adductor, and again just feel like gristly and not fluid and like almost painful, and then it'd just linger in the quad where, yeah, if that goes then there's not much else you can do. Probably in St Moritz, where I was doing sessions with Ross where we'd normally train quite comfortably together, and I was just going backwards so like on bike sessions we would do not seriously hard reps but like strong reps up the hill, and I would normally be on his wheel and I was kilometres back and really struggling, and every time we'd do, like, it's quite hilly around there, so we'd go on just steady runs, and running up hills I just felt like I was working as hard as I could, but I just wasn't going anywhere. And then just sessions that we did where it wasn't even, for my own standards, that challenging tempo or speed or heart rate, but the legs just wouldn't go. Yeah, swimming has been fine. There's probably only two or three occasions where I felt an odd sensation in my left leg, and those have been when it's been like I've been going extremely hard, but they didn't last too long. After St Moritz, we came home and we wanted to see if there's been improvement in fitness from the training that we did out there. So we did a VO2 bike test, and we wanted to also do a VO2 run test. But as soon as we did the bike test, numbers were 3 or 4 stages less at the same perceived effort, and 40 to 50 watts less than I have done in 2 to 3 years ago, and we at that point just put it down to fatigue. So we had a few easier weeks to recover from what we thought was fatigue, and then the build to Nice started, and then I tore my calf on my left side. It was a very slow and steady build and something that I've never experienced before, and it came completely out of the blue. The tear, I had a 10 centimetre tear.
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad. Yeah. So after the scan for the calf tear, we were able to build to Nice as best we could. Obviously limited running, but we always knew that leading into the race. And I was pretty confident going into Nice that I was aerobically fit enough to complete the race. But during the race and during the bike section of the race, I couldn't respond to anything that was going on around me. So as soon as someone would go past me, I didn't have the power in my legs to go and ride with them, and I was stuck at a very low power or effort state in comparison to what I have done in previous races. And then when it came to the run, yeah, that left side felt, at the time I think I thought it was still the calf that was causing me issues, but cramping sensations, no reactivity, no power backwards. And once I started I walked for a little bit, and then it got a little bit better, and I had a little bit to give at the end. But yeah, it was a day that I want to forget. Yeah, so after Nice, we decided best to, because we assumed, rightfully or wrongly, that it was still the calf causing me issues, and to make it so that we didn't make it any worse, we called the season there. We had 2 months off to fully rest and get over the calf fatigue, general tiredness, and to hit 2025 how we wanted 2024 to go, with a fresh mindset and a really fresh body, because I hadn't done very much for a very long time, and with the belief that whatever was going on would have disappeared after a long period of rest. And yeah, I had my 2025 season planned out. We'd spend the first few months in New Zealand, where I would race in New Zealand, do Ironman New Zealand, go and do Geelong, come back, do Roth, maybe another few 70.3s before the main focus on Kona at the end of the year. I was gonna, set those demons from 2024 to bed and finally feel like I could perform how I wanted to. We had our first camp in Lanzarote. I had what we believed were neural sensations down the left side. I couldn't run up hills without my leg almost collapsing underneath me. I was running with Kate Curran, and she's a phenomenal runner, don't get me wrong, but she would drop me like a sack of whatever on when we did hill reps, and just almost like sprung away from me, and I was trying to put so much power into the floor, and I was just like standing still. The pain moved around my leg, and it's not something that it's really difficult to explain. And it was only really when I started to really do slightly harder work where I could feel these symptoms, and it was really confusing. And so we thought it was neural, so like either muscle trapping a nerve, or I guess a sciatica type of thing. So I was doing loads of physio work, strengthening up my core to try and mitigate anything else. The amount of time I spent in the gym was quite ridiculous. Because I could still train aerobically and it felt fine, we carried on. We went to New Zealand, but unfortunately the symptoms after lots of physio still didn't go away. We just then decided to go see a sports doctor just to get a different opinion, and they gave us the diagnosis that we weren't expecting to hear. I have been diagnosed with external iliac artery endofibrosis. That's a mouthful. Obviously I'm not a doctor, so the best thing to do is look at Google, but in my layman terms, it's hardening of the iliac artery, and the external one, so mine's on the left-hand side. And obviously your artery is meant to be a nice spherical shape, and mine has hardened, so it's limited in size. And obviously that limited size means that blood flow is restricted to my left-hand side. And it probably explains why it's relatively, during aerobic exercise, I don't feel symptoms as much, but as soon as I start to work harder and I want to pump more blood to my legs, it's the oxygen and the blood is just not getting there. So that's why I'm getting these lactate build-up feeling, this cramping sensation, because I basically can't get enough blood to my leg. So we got the diagnosis before we did Ironman New Zealand. The doctor said that doing exercise won't make, it's not dangerous. Obviously there'll be a limit to how hard you can push, which we found out. We changed bike positions and to decrease the angle of the hip to hopefully allow a little bit more blood flow. And I had a very different approach to racing, where I had heart rate caps and power caps, which were probably like 30 to 40 watts lower than what I'd normally race at, with the intention of finishing as best, finishing the Ironman and qualifying for Kona. Snowing.
It's snowing, yeah. You can say that if you want in the middle.
It's snowing, we're back in the UK. So I raced Ironman New Zealand. I couldn't finish, the sensations were too much, and it was all just too much. This whole period has been really stressful, and getting through all those races last year and trying to get through another one, sorry, but I just didn't have any more good vibes to give, and it was really horrible, and my first DNF over a full distance. The diagnosis was great news because it does explain all of last year, and it makes me feel a little bit more normal and not like a crazy person, because that's how I felt quite a lot of last year, not really understanding what was going on with my body, but knowing something wasn't right. And it gives me hope that there is chance to get back to the performance level where I would like to be, instead of those negative thoughts of, am I ever going to be a professional athlete? Am I ever going to get back there? So Billy was great during this process. I reached out to one of the best surgeons who does this in the UK, Professor Robert Hinchcliffe. He works in Bristol. He's done multiple surgeries of iliac artery endofibriosis on professional cyclists, and we have booked in to see him in about a month. So I will be going under the knife and getting surgery. At the moment I am in a little bit of limbo. I can train, probably aerobically. Yeah, I'm just waiting a little bit until I can get back to training properly and see what hopefully the end of the season looks like, till I could be back racing. Obviously each case is individual and it depends, but that would probably be the best scenario. I just want to take this time to thank all of you guys for reaching out after Ironman New Zealand and checking how I was. I'd like to thank all my sponsors and for understanding what I've been going through and being really supportive with the diagnosis and how that might look in the next few months with me not racing. That was probably one of the first things that crossed my mind once getting the diagnosis, that I would have another year out of racing, and a lot of contracts will be finishing this year, and if I've not got any results, it's not going to look very good. But they've been really good and understand, and even reaching out in ways that they can help. But yeah, send your good vibes my way as I go into surgery in the next few weeks, and watch this space. So iliac artery endofibrosis is a relatively, well, it's relatively new. It's been misdiagnosed in the last 10 to 15 years as extreme fatigue and just tiredness, and athletes or individuals have just ended up retiring early. So it's only in the last, like I said, 10 years where the surgery has been taken place.
Actually snowing.
It's actually snowing. So hopefully this can give, if other athletes out there are getting similar symptoms, it gives them a light of what it could be and avenues to reach down, because I wouldn't like any other athlete to question themselves for years and not really understanding what was wrong. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to know a little bit more. It's not like an overuse injury or a falling off your bike. It's completely unknown why you get it and what causes it. So it's a kind of a blessing for me to know that I haven't done this to myself. It's just I am one of those lucky ones. So if you think you're one of the lucky ones too, and getting symptoms like this, reach out, and I hope you'll have a great training day.
Cool.
This is crazy.
Bye.
Bye. I did it. Snowing.